Hello, Dr. Cinema. I'm here to wish you a happy new year, happy 2018, and Quachi sees too. Say hi. Haha, what a funny story. Thank you, Quachi. So, it's 2018, so now I can officially do my top 10 worst movies and top 10 best movies I've seen 2017. So, before we get into it, I just want to make things a couple clear. I've seen a lot of movies this year. I've seen like 46, 47, something like that. But I have not seen every movie. So if there is a movie that appears on either the top 10 worst list or top 10 best list that you wanted on there, either I haven't seen it or it just didn't make the cut. So, so for this list, it's the top 10 worst list. And another thing that I want to make sure you know that I have ranked every movie I've seen in 2017 according to a certain criteria and scale. And so this is just where the movies landed. This is just how it is. So, top 10 worst movies I've seen 2017. Let's get right down to it. Number 10, Ghost in the Shell. Wow. I actually thought this was a 2016 movie. It's been a long time since I've seen this. This came out in March. This is the American movie version of the Japanese anime. The Ghost in the Shell had its own movie in the early 1990s and was a major influence on the Matrix movies. Now, visually speaking, when it comes to special effects, this is a beautiful movie. However, the characters are kind of dull, the action is serviceable. It's just not a lot of excitement in it, which, given how this movie looks, is really disappointing, and it seems it's just a few years behind the kind of message it wants to get across. So that's at number 10. Number 9, Rings. So back in the early 2000s, Hollywood made these Western versions of Japanese horror movies. So the Japanese horror movie Ringu got its American version, The Ring. And The Ring, while it still hasn't held up as much as people would like, is still considered a horror classic. The sequel, The Ring 2, we don't talk about. But there has been talk of a third Ring movie for over a decade, even 3D at one point. But now we have Rings, the third installment of the American Ring franchise. It's what you expect. I mean, I love horror movies, and as easily it can be for horror movies to be good, it's just as easy for them to be bad. Now, to be fair, there are a couple moments in this movie it's like, okay, that's actually kind of interesting, and a couple scenes that I thought looked good. And there's even one part of this movie where this professor sort of writes out this like essay or thing that we don't actually see, but talks about how Samara and the tape could represent that there's an actual afterlife. I wanted to focus on that. That sounded really interesting. But no, we got your usual jump scare horror movie. Not the worst, but yeah, it's one of the worst. Number 8, so that'll be this many. iBoy. iBoy is a Netflix original movie set in London. A boy has part of his smartphone lodged in his brain due to a confrontation with some local thugs. And now he can do other technological abilities. So the general idea of a guy using technological powers has been used before in comic books and other movies. And this doesn't really bring that much to it. The character development is very minimal at best. And the pacing's off a little bit. Like in one scene, this guy's just figured out he can do this and he can do this. But in the next scene, it seems like he's a master of everything now. Show the development. Show how he got to that point. And for the majority of the movie, you're thinking that the main villain is this one guy, but then, plot twist, it's actually this guy. A guy who has never even been mentioned or seen until that point in the movie. Now, to this movie's credit, this could actually work as a show. I do get a similar vibe from other Netflix Marvel shows like Daredevil, but iBoy, yeah, it's got some kinks. It's got some stuff to sort out. Number 7, Little Evil, another Netflix original movie We see this is a horror comedy of a man played by Adam Scott from Parks and Rec marrying this woman and moving in with her and her son from a previous marriage, the Antichrist. So yeah, a lot of the comedy is supposed to stem from the fact that this is a semi-parody of the Omen movies. But actually, there's not a lot of jokes in here. It's a lot more serious than they led you to believe it was. Like I wouldn't even consider this like a real comedy movie. I mean, it takes itself too seriously. Actually, I mean, I got a little chuckle like or two, and Adam Scott's still pretty good, but there's an absolute lack of comedy. I wouldn't even call this a comedy movie. So I was disappointed in the misadvertisement that this was presented as. So let's move on to number 6, The Mummy starring Tom Cruise. Now in the 1930s and 40s, Universal Studios made the first cinematic universe with the Dracula, Mummy, Frankenstein, Wolfman, all those people. Now, of course, in recent years, we have the superhero cinematic universes. So now Universal forgot they're the ones that started it, and now they're copying them. They're trying to get onto every major movie trend going on right now, but they're still after they became popular, and so they're just copying everything. No real originality. And they're so focused on setting up future movies that they don't focus on the movie right now to try and make it great. And Tom Cruise, really, Tom Cruise? I will say this, the female mummy in this movie is actually kind of interesting. The original Universal Monster lineup had one woman, Bride of Frankenstein, and she got no lines of dialogue. This mummy is actually kind of interesting. She actually looks pretty cool too. But they just did not put the focus in the right places. They're just all over the place. Number 5, Beauty and the Beast. Calm down if you're freaking out. This is similar to Ghost in the Shell. This is a beautiful movie. I mean, I do believe I'm watching a live action version of Beauty and the Beast. But that's its biggest flaw. It's just a live action version of Beauty and the Beast. We don't really need this. I mean, I'm sure that the other live action versions of Disney has been making, like Maleficent and Cinderella, have been fine or whatever. But you just can't make certain versions of already existing movies. I mean, and they tried to put in a couple new things, like there's this prologue opening scene with like the actual old witch, like sorceress, turning the prince into the monster. I'm just like, okay, that's fine, but not really necessary. And then we have this thing about how Belle's mom dies from the Black Plague. What did that add to the story? What did that add? So, as much as I really love looking at the movie, because it does look pretty good, it's just... I'm sorry, Emma Watson. I love you. I really do. You're a great actress. But this just didn't quite work out. I'm sorry. So let's move on to number 4, Baywatch. Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in that era, there was a TV show, Baywatch. I think it was supposed to be like a serious drama show or something. But the only reason people watch is for the slow motion shots of the lifeguards running, especially the female lifeguards. So yeah, that. Now this movie is a movie version of that show, actually a continuation of it, I believe. And it's more action based, and unlike Little Evil, this does have comedy in it. Now I will admit, this is a guilty pleasure for me. I mean, this is a guilty pleasure. Because even though a lot of the jokes are based on the same theme of like how they're not actual law enforcers, they're just lifeguards, it can actually cause you some laughs. I did genuinely have a couple laughs in this movie. But yeah, it doesn't really mean it's that great of a film. So like I said, it's a great guilty pleasure, but the story is just a little too crazy. Zac Efron enjoyable, passable, but yeah, some moments. And yeah, it's definitely based on looks. Number 3, Sandy Wexler. God, this is like what, the third Netflix original on this list? Come on, guys. So yeah, Sandy Wexler stars Adam Sandler, and he plays this talent agent in like the 80s, 90s. A little, I can't quite remember when the majority of the story is supposed to take place, but it's focused on this talent agent guy, Sandy Wexler, failing talent agent guy, who actually comes across someone with actual talent and realizes he actually has to do real legitimate work for her. Now, this is apparently supposed to be some sort of tribute or homage to a real life talent agent Adam Sandler had or something. But a lot of the things that happen in this movie could actually be used as metaphors for his actual career. And at one point, I'm like, is Adam Sandler actually smarter than I'm giving him credit for? Nah, this is just coincidence. But yeah, there's the annoying voice, the Adam Sandler cliches, the borderline at best racist appearance of Rob Schneider. It's what you'd expect. This is only number 3. Oh god, no. No! No! Not number 2. No, no. This is only number 2, but I hate this movie. I guess we should talk about it. The Dark Tower. Now, I already did a play-by-play review of this movie, so if you want to know more details, check that out. But The Dark Tower is an adaptation of Stephen King's magnum opus Dark Tower series, spanning 7 novels. 8 if you include The Wind Through the Keyhole. Like I said, I already did a review of this movie, explaining in detail why I hate this movie so much. But short version, it's super generic, doesn't do anything unique that the story did in the books. Too short, not enough budget, wrong rating. Ugh. And that one line they could have so easily just shown, not spoken. Okay, enough. Actually, the number 1 movie on this list is actually not that infuriating. Okay, so number 1, the worst movie I've seen in 2017. The Bye-Bye Man. To be honest, I guess I could really care less where I put this movie on this list. But The Bye-Bye Man, horror movie, creature, that if you think of his name or say his name, kills you. Now, like I said, there have been a lot of bad horror movies, but at least for a lot of them, you can say they're complete films. They actually, at the end of the movie, actually give you all the information you need to know. This doesn't do that. There's so much questions about the Bye-Bye Man himself that's just left unanswered. The character development is shitty. The exposition is just crappy. Wait for me to start the new year, right? Well, that's my top 10 worst movies I've seen 2017. Luckily, the next video I'm doing is a lot happier. So, watch the next video.